Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back here with Jason. Got an interesting video, a little two-parter. First part, going to talk about some drilling results coming from Golden Mile. Second part, going to be a bunch of just general kind of Q&A about mining. See some people asking for what does Jason look at from his mining investments, as well as some other questions. So we'll get into that as the part two. But first things first, Jason, how are you?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Raptors are on the ropes, down 3-2. So we'll see if they win tonight. But by the time people watch this, you probably imagine that I'm upset because I bet you they lose tonight. But diving into mining stuff. Look, we did a recent video talking about things coming from Golden Mile. We said some drilling results should be around the corner. Bang! You guys dropped some awesome numbers. Do you want to kind of walk through it and we'll talk about the significance?
Sure. Yeah, we initiated a delineation drill program for Golden Mile, and for a number of different reasons. A, to see if we can expand the deposit, which is more for the later stages of this exploration program here. The current delineation program is to try to do a lot of infill holes. We did do some one step out hole I'll mention in a moment, but we intercepted some phenomenal results. 38 meters, that's like over 125 feet of 4.6 grams gold. If that doesn't get you excited in this industry, nothing will, because this is a relatively shallow, high-grade open pit. Other intercepts include 16 meters of 2.4 grams and 7.6 meters of 5 grams. We came out with a press release with these, as well as a whole list of other results, and it really speaks to the high-grade nature of Golden Mile. And so I'm optimistic that there's a good chance we could potentially increase the number of ounces and or the grade. And then we had one step out hole that was chasing a certain target. It was 100 meters away that intercepted 18 meters of 1.24 grams. So again, putting it into perspective on some of our past conversations where so many mines in Nevada chase 0.5 grams,
Yeah.
and we're looking for things north of a gram. This is not only in our wheelhouse, this is really exciting stuff. So Golden Mile, I think, is going to be a great project, and we're closing in on making a development decision. And shareholders and potential shareholders should look for that potential announcement in the near term. I'm just really excited about it because very few mining companies get to explore and then ultimately develop mines that are this high grade as an open pit.
Yeah, I was going to lean in. Yeah, exactly. You talked already about the fact other mines in the jurisdiction pushing for even, half a gram per ton, and very happy with even 1 gram per ton. And look at what you guys are seeing in your numbers. So I'm sure you must be extremely excited. You're kind of already alluding to that development decision that's coming down the line, and obviously looking forward to that. Anything else you wanted to touch on about the drilling results?
No, other than we're waiting on a big tranche of additional results. And what we're going to do is take this delineation drill program and compile it into our first reserve. And so we currently have a resource. And then as you further define and get comfortable with the mineral that's in the ground as a function of drill hole spacing, et cetera, you can upgrade that to a reserve. And so we look toward the end of the year to come out with our first reserve on Golden Mile and our first pre-feasibility. We've done most all the aspects of the pre-feasibility internally, and that goes into part of our decision to make a development decision there. But we're going to package that as a pre-feasibility for the shareholders so they can see it. And we target that by the end of the year. So this drill program has been great. And it's just real exciting. Golden Mile, I think, will be our next mine and add longevity to our operations.
Yeah, incredible. Well, there you go. A lot of things people can look forward to here. So awesome. Yeah, amazing part one. I guess here, diving into the part two. So I got a bunch of questions, kind of just going to shoot from the hip, and you can take us
Sure.
wherever you want. The first one was kind of just general, about yourself and maybe some of investments that you make in the mining space. They said, hey, like, what does Jason look for when it comes to making mining investments? They even had extensions of how important is the team versus the jurisdiction, et cetera. I'm curious if you've done any investing and maybe what you look for.
Sure. We could talk all day about this. There's so many aspects and parts to, in my opinion, to an investment in a mining company. The team is first and foremost, because as any business, I believe it's the people that actually make or break a company, can make it a success, can overcome challenges when they arise, which they always do. And in the end of the day, it's the people that make it work. So that is paramount in any investment decision I make in the mining space. And obviously, it's good to look toward their past history. Have they done it before? Can they do it? Not that you sometimes don't take chances on people who are trying for the first time, but teams who have done it, built mines, produced gold in the past, stand a better chance of doing it again. Jurisdiction, I believe, is going to become, it kind of already is, but going to become the primary focus for investors going forward. In an investment, in my investment portfolio of a few other mining companies, jurisdiction is paramount as well. You can have the best mine in the world, and if you're in a politically unfavorable jurisdiction, the risk is so high that you may not get permits. You may have all sorts of other issues that can derail a mining project. So, being with Fortitude in Nevada, we are in arguably the best mining jurisdiction in the world. So I previously, with my other career, if you will, in the space with Gold Resource for 15 years, worked in Mexico and watched Mexico go from one of the top Fraser Institute mining jurisdictions in the world down to the bottom quartile, and it become very difficult to operate there. It's one of the reasons, diversification, of why we spun out Fortitude out of Gold Resource. So political jurisdiction is paramount. And then when you get into other aspects of what I would look for in a mining investment, grade. They say grade is king in our business. And so you look at underground and or open pit a little bit different as it relates to grade, but grade drives everything. So that's another big aspect. But there's so many moving parts. Infrastructure. Is there water? Is there electric? If not, can you work off of diesel generators? Access. There's a whole suite of issues that you have to be able to satiate to actually get a mine into production. So those are some of the top things I look at when I look at mining company. I'm biased, and I'm also very much all in on Fortitude. So I do have some other mining company investments, and they check the same boxes with experience management, political jurisdictions, or mining favorable jurisdictions, mines with great grade, etc.
Yeah. No, interesting. I mean, I know sometimes comparing a deposit that's not in the same jurisdiction is kind of like, apples and oranges. And we see a lot of the questions along those lines, but I think people, so here's one question they're asking, how do you value a deposit that's, kind of putting two deposits side by side, one that's maybe in British Columbia or in some other place, let's say, like you said, Mexico, versus, a project in Nevada. And kind of, they also had like, what's the importance of being close to those roads, having water and other things? I mean, at the end of the day, obviously economics are king, and I think that's what you're alluding to, but how do you kind of put them side by side with, an early stage exploration company and then one that's moving into production?
Yeah, those are all good questions. To some extent, you can't put them side by side because it kind of depends on the evolution of that particular project. An early stage exploration play only, where a company's going out trying to look for a deposit, is a completely different investment than a development stage or a producing stage investment. And they each have their own merit depending on one's risk tolerance. And some pretty sizable gains can be made on early exploration plays, because you're taking on all that additional risk of the investment of, will they find something? Whereas once they do find something, obviously you've checked that box, but then you have the whole suite of risks of the infrastructure. How important is that? That drives your costs. So if you're not close to those infrastructure, roads, don't have access to water, power, that just drives the cost and can make a deposit uneconomic. So all those factors come into play, but to some extent you can't really compare them unless you're comparing two producers, junior producers even, or two major producers, or two exploration, and you can compare them side by side that way. But as far as political jurisdiction, that brings that whole issue or element into the analysis of an investment. And yeah, that boils down to which jurisdiction is better. And for instance, in the United States, there's some states that don't want mining, and they're not good states to go and chase potential deposits. Same thing for Canada. There's certain areas in Canada where you have a much more challenging time trying to get a mine into production versus others. So it's very difficult in this space to just have a perfect apples to apples comparison and say, oh, this is better or that's better. And you kind of have to take more of a holistic approach on looking at the totality of, okay, where are the biggest risks given the stage of the company and what they're chasing?
Yeah. No, interesting. All good points, and I agree with you. I think it is kind of hard to compare, and you need to look at other things in that region and how they sit next. Here's some more questions people had. Someone said, all right, if Jason had to pick a jurisdiction outside of Nevada, potentially for, hey, this is where we'd look next, or just in general, what is a favorite jurisdiction outside of Nevada?
Ooh, yeah, I would definitely pick Nevada over anywhere else. But there are some other favorable ones, like for instance, in the US, where you look to where there's actual mining going on. Having said that, our office is in Colorado. I would never try to put a mine in production in Colorado, because the political environment in Colorado, you'd be up against it. And I think there's a very large gold mine in Colorado that's been operating for a very long time, and that's kind of the only one. So there are some other states in the US that have mining, but I think to answer that question, you look to where mining companies are having success. And then you also look to where mining companies are struggling, where they're not getting permits, where they're getting unduly pressured economically, typically with taxes and royalties or whatever on mining companies. Those are the ones you kind of want to stay away from. Again, Mexico used to be great. Now it's down in the bottom quartile. Peru, they had an election where, that new administration actually threatened to take mines away. That's not a good environment to actually be mining. So I'm not suggesting that they'll be able to do that, but again, you don't want to be necessarily under that kind of pressure. So, there are places in Canada, I would look, a few states in the US, and we absolutely look. We look at, that's not our primary focus, but we would be remiss not to look at opportunities. But Nevada is our focus, and that being one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world, it's just one less major thing I have to worry about as far as operating mines.
Yeah. No, got it. I think great answers. And then here, a pretty interesting one. Kept this one. I think it's going to be a good combo. So here someone says, to me, it seems like extending the life of a mine is a major swing point in the value of a deposit and company. Is this true? What goes into extending the life of a mine other than the obvious, there's more gold here than we thought?
Sure. No, great question. It absolutely plays into additional value. And that's what we're trying to do. We want to be a very long-term producer in the gold space in Nevada. And so the more deposits we can find and the more mines we put into production demonstrates to the market that we're going to be around a long time. So that, I believe, is a catalyst for value creation. What goes into that is beyond the obvious of, oh, you found more mineralization, is you then have to add to your infrastructure. And in our situation with an open pit heap leach, your open pit heap leach is designed with a little bit of overcapacity typically, but not a lot. So when you go find a substantial material amount addition to the deposit, if you will, you have to increase your infrastructure oftentimes. And in our case, the heap leach pad. And we have already had to do that with Isabella Pearl, where we started out with what we were chasing at the time. And then over time, we added another 20,000 ounces with exploration. And so we had to increase our heap leach pad, and we did that. And so that goes along with the evolution of what more do you have to do than just find more ounces. You have to make sure your facilities can accommodate that. But yeah, that's a good question. And this industry is a very challenging industry, and that's why I love it so much. And I believe anybody who tells you otherwise, you should probably, that should pin your ears back, because you plan tremendously for projects, etc., and something always goes wrong. And so you have to overcome those challenges. And but that's also what makes it really exciting. And so yeah, you just never really know. And that's why, coming back to like one of your original questions, the team, you have to have a great team to be able to adjust to evolution of a mine. So when you find more, and you have to overcome challenges of maybe finding more water or expanding, heap leach pad areas, etc., you gotta have a great team to execute on it.
Yeah. No, look, makes a lot of sense. Team is important, and everything else you mentioned, definitely, good things to look at. Want to, of course, invite anyone who's made it to this point of the video. If you've got questions, please drop them below. We'll definitely do a lot more of these kind of Q&A hybrid based kind of videos for sure. Jason, anything else, little tidbits about mining you wanted to throw out there, or do you think we've covered enough today?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground. In general, I think mining is often lost today on many investors as not being important. And the truth is, it couldn't be further from the truth. You can look around at your life and your lifestyle, and if you can look at it and point to it, and if you can't say that it was grown, then it was mined. So as you get in your car and get on your cell phone, and much of what's in your house, though your whole world and existence is here only because of mining and the ability to extract the resources we need to have the way of life we want. And so, I see this green initiative being pushed, which is great, but I think it's important to shareholders to not get lost in the fact that if that green energy is going to continue to increase in priority, then everybody needs to embrace miners, because where's the ones that are going to deliver the copper and the materials that go into the batteries, etc., for EVs. So mining in general is just so important. And yeah, that's the additional message I think is often lost in the investment world.
Yeah, maybe worth going over. I know a lot of the, general governments have come out with like the amount of resources needed to fuel, electrification and all the other things involved in kind of, where the world's going. And we could definitely do a big chat around, the amount of resource being used today and the amount that's going to be required in the next, 5 to 10 years, and definitely mix it into some cool videos and some good conversations. But Jason, thanks so much again. Always appreciate you taking the time to answer a bunch of these questions. And again, want to invite anyone with questions, please drop them below. We'll make sure we do some more videos coming soon. But again, Jason, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Have a good day.